How you doing? Scotty Bear back with another video. This video about a friend of mine sends me an article saying that Texas, the number 2 place that people are moving to, Florida being number 1, of course, I think most everybody knows that, is also the number 2 place people are moving out of. So, very interesting article. Actually, it didn't really post any statistical data, which was also kind of curious. But I was like, wow. And as it turns out, I left Texas after moving there. But I didn't have a whole lot of complaints, but I did have one, and I'm going to talk about it. So basically, I left Las Vegas. Everything kind of opened back up. My driver's license expired because the DMV was closed. My car registration expired because the DMV closed. I don't know how that worked out where it, was both end up being expired, but I, jumped ship and left and set out for Texas. However, I initially didn't end up moving to Texas. Work was piling up while I was driving on the open road, and I stopped off in Albuquerque for a couple of nights at a motel, and tried to catch up on a little work. While walking over to Starbucks, I saw a sign, and the sign says weekly, $160, $89, something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, huh. And that's basically what I've been doing, is living in those weeklies while the pandemic was going on, as I was unable to really find an apartment because of the eviction freeze. There weren't really putting people in apartments, and I really didn't have a good idea what to do. Plus, in Vegas, if you're unaware, the weeklies went from like 200 a week to like 450 a week, and I was like, no thanks. And I'd applied a few places in Las Vegas, to find a place to live. And I have reasonably good credit, and I had lived in an apartment in Vegas before, and I just was unable to get one, mainly because no one wanted to put somebody in an apartment without a job. I mean, I had income, I could prove my income, and I was holding myself up reasonably okay, but still, they wanted a job. First and last month's rent, all of these, crazy things. And I mean, from I guess the landlord's perspective or the leasing company, I guess at that point they have the same, question marks that I had, right? What was gonna happen? So I figured, everybody else is moving to Texas. Why not? So I took off and ended up stopping in Albuquerque. Like I said, I walked into the place offering the special, and I said, weekly for, 189 or whatever it was. And he's like, yeah. And I said, do you have availability? And they were cleaning one out then, and one, right? And I was like, I'll take it. And he was like, he looked at my driver's license, and of course, they wanted me to fill out the car registration or whatnot, or what your plate number was on your car, right? So I did that, and he said to me, he goes, yeah, right there on the corner is the DMV, and tomorrow morning you can go there and transfer your license over and register your car. And I was like, no kidding. And he goes, yeah. And And that was a huge deal for me because, I'd been pulled over once and, Las Vegas, I mean, they didn't overly hassle me, but they weren't like, like, oh, it's the pandemic. We understand. So it was weird. But that made me a little uncomfortable driving around with no license and no registration. And actually, when I went over to the DMV and booked the appointment, because they had DMV reps, they were like, "Oh, don't worry about it." I was like, "Yeah, I wish I could just bring you along when the police were pulling me over, and you should try to tell them that." And so I was a little miffed at Las Vegas already. So I went ahead and rented that place for I guess what turned out to be about 6, 7 months. I mean, I liked Albuquerque. I mean, it was okay. I mean, actually, the thing that I really liked about Albuquerque was, one, it's a nice place, great hiking and outdoor activities, so I enjoyed that. Two, no humidity or reasonably low humidity. And three, it cools down and snows a little bit, but it's also gone in the morning. So I liked all of that. So I was willing to stay. But again, in Albuquerque, I had the same issue. I could not find a place to live. Actually, I had a landlord, I went and looked at a few places, filled out a few applications. They weren't interested. They knew I just moved there. Again, I had money, I had income. I was paying the, $700 or $800 a month to stay at the, extended stay thingy. There's that. And then, a buddy of mine, he was like, well, have you ever been to, El Paso, Texas? Now, I had been to Texas a good amount of times, and I was, plenty familiar with Texas. Been to Dallas, been to Houston, been to Austin, been all over Texas. I didn't particularly love Texas. I mean, I'll just say that in general. I didn't hate it, but, I didn't love it. It wasn't exactly, the place I was looking to move to. However, it was the thing everybody was doing. And I went down to El Paso, and it was very inexpensive. Plus, also the very minimal humidity, which was that was a plus in my mind. So I looked around a little bit, and of course, again, I filled out an application, and if you follow my channel for any length of time, I found an apartment very, very easily and quickly. So, actually, I filled out an application. Lady was like, yeah, I think we can help you out. And just filled out this application. I did, and, I drove off towards Albuquerque, just going home. Not sure what would happen. 15 minutes later, phone rings. Hey, you're in. So I turned around and gave him my deposit and everything and went back to Albuquerque and packed my stuff and moved to Texas. And I mean, it turned out to be a good move, honestly. Like I said, I have experience in Austin, Houston, and Dallas. Never lived in Texas, but certainly spent a reasonably good amount of time there, so I was familiar with it, mostly familiar with the humidity, and that's that's why I didn't end up moving to Florida, because my buddy Vlad, who is Cuban, or from Cuba, said, hey, come on over to Florida, I'll buy you an espresso. And I was like, geez, I want a free espresso. So I almost moved to Florida, but the heat is just dreadfully hot. And honestly, I love what people say about Las Vegas. Oh, it's a dry heat. Oh yeah, 109 dry heat. I gotta tell you, not that pleasant no matter what. Still, not humid, but still, 109 is not very pleasant way to live. And I guess that was my, main complaint about Las Vegas is the heat. Livable in the winter, miserable in the summer. And goes on into October and November. It could easily still be 100. And that's why I didn't choose Arizona, is because it's 100 on Christmas. So there's that. But I ended up moving to El Paso, Texas, and stuck around there for 9 months and left. As you know now, I am in Mexico. I put my stuff in storage and I guess effectively left Texas, just like the article talked about. And I thought that was interesting. And, as where I am right now and what's going on with the, surge in this new variant stuff, I feel a little like I may have jumped the gun, leaving my perfectly good apartment and, in El Paso, which I had very few complaints about it. Very low cost of living, very reasonable, food and stuff like that. Gas, I mean, unless you're traveling, you really around town, it'd be hard for me to believe that you really go through a whole lot of gas. I mean, you go Las Cruces one way, San Antonio the other way, Albuquerque the other way. I mean, you really, more or less stay around town, which in El Paso's, I think about 10, 11 miles square or whatever, as far as that goes. So, I don't feel like gasoline is a huge issue, but, overall, very reasonable place to live. My only complaint was really this, marijuana not being legal. That's right. That was about my only complaint. I may have not left if marijuana was legal in Texas, and that's why I kind of told my buddy, was like, well, if you want to go back, I would not go back. If I went back to the United States to find a new place to live, I would not go back to Texas for that reason. Yeah, it was okay to, while I was in Texas, to go without marijuana. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. But I'm not much of a drinker or anything. So as far as having any, I don't know, that type of entertainment, I guess, right? So it was seemed to be a little lacking in that, situation, for me anyway. Arizona, many people tells me, well, you should just move to Arizona. Marijuana is legal over there. Well, the price of marijuana is pretty ridiculous over there because, when I was driving over to California, to make my way over to Ensenada, I picked up some marijuana, and they had a pretty stiff tax on marijuana. So, Arizona is like not a reasonable place to live as far as things seem to be pretty high costs. I do love Tucson, and spend a little time there, and I think it's a cute little town. However, it's definitely grown up a little bit, so it's changed. Still, that might be the only place. Plus, it's not as hot in Tucson, maybe it is, as it is in Phoenix anyway. But that is my story on why I moved to Texas and then moved out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a wonderful Christmas Eve.